The next speaker is Minister of Children and Equality, but today she is here in her role as a Vice President of WADA. Ladies and gentlemen, Linda Hofstad Helleland.
Distinguished speakers and participants, allow me first to thank World Forum of Ethics in Business, FairSport, and Anti-Doping Norway for organizing this conference. As you know, recent events and the challenges to the anti-doping community have shaken the confidence of athletes and the public in our ability to combat doping. When we, as the anti-doping movement, lose the public's confidence, we lose credibility. Without credibility, we lose the trust of governments. In the long run, clean athletes will question how the anti-doping community are to safeguard their interests. Where will we, the anti-doping community, be headed if governments distrust us and athletes lose confidence in our ability to act in a coordinated way? As a cabinet minister of the Norwegian government, I know firsthand how important credibility is for our work and our priorities in all our decision-making. And the anti-doping movement should be built on its credibility. Right now, the credibility is threatened. And I, as the Vice President nominated by the public authorities, need to be accountable to the governments that nominated me. But I notice day by day that governance within the sports movement are not as democratic as it should be, and is under pressure. A strong and independent WADA is the key in our way forward. We need to work hard to earn trust, which in turn will give us the necessary and much needed funding from the governments. And the governments need to take more responsibility for the anti-doping work. We need to put more efforts into the anti-doping movement. And we, as governments of the world, need to point out the right direction. And that direction means more independent, more transparency, more democracy in the fight against doping. During the WADA meetings in Montreal last month, we experienced questions about the work that has been conducted by the Compliance Review Committee, the CRC. And dear friends, it worries me that this question is being asked. We need to remember that the CRC was established as an independent standing committee under the Constitution of WADA. And the main objective of the CRC is to recommend to the WADA Executive Committee whether a signatory are compliant or not compliant. For us, as the Executive Committee, not to rely on the outcome of the decisions made by the CRC is, of course, not acceptable. We know they made their decision on strict adherence with the international standard for code compliance. A decision made by CRC must be taken into account by the Executive Committee and not doubt at any time the competence and expertise of CRC. The fact that a decision by the CRC does not suit any of the parties of the Executive Committee cannot result in putting the decision by the CRC aside. Decisions must be based on facts and rules, and not on what suits any of the parties in particular. WADA's roadmap has been a clear and strong message in the fight against doping. We need to be clear in our communication. As the world governing body on the anti-doping, WADA needs to be seen as an organization that sport fans and the athletes can rely on. Athletes and athletes organizations tell us that the situation around the Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang was confusing. And a statement by the German Olympic Sports Confederation Athletes Commission stated, "A public view will state a failure to make investigations transparent, a failure to control itself, and a failure to implement effective sanctions mechanisms." Statements like this from athletes should be taken very seriously, especially by WADA. Clean athletes and clarity around rules, around consequences. They deserve open and transparent hearings when vital decisions are to be made. We have to put pressure on the sports organizations to make them understand that processes like this and processes like the last couple of years reduce the credibility of the entire anti-doping community. And that's why, good friends, it's time for a new roadmap, a roadmap of trust. A roadmap of trust will raise the importance of good governance involving independence, transparency, and democracy. A roadmap of trust must be based on our common values and the athletes' voices as our guides. I have been speaking publicly and suggested a review of the anti-doping system in light of what happened during the last 2.5 years. A number of issues have ascended from this. For example, many athletes that media and the public are confused, as some athletes can compete in international competitions, while the same athletes are not allowed to compete in the Olympics. Additionally, the role of the international federations in terms of allowing competitions to be organized in Russia, while others do not allow that to happen. Many have questioned if some elements of the system should be reviewed when 28 athletes are acquitted by cause and 11 are not. Well, the Oslo Commission ruled differently based upon a very comprehensive review of these cases and many more. Dear anti-doping friends, this is a crucial moment for the anti-doping movement. Let us make sure we take the right choices. History will judge us based on the decisions and actions we take now. Let us be sure that we are on the right side. Let us make sure that we, in all our behavior, focus on good governance and use democratic tools in all our actions. And that is why I announce that I will try to be elected as the new president of WADA. I do expect and hope that more candidates will step forward. And in that way, we can have a proper and transparent debate about the future values and policies for the anti-doping movement. We have to remember, it is on our watch the clean athletes tells us they are confused and don't think they are properly heard. It is on our watch that the protection of whistleblowers is more vital than ever before. Only then can we disclose people who threaten our system, who threaten the world of sport. Every day, we delay our actions is a day lost in protecting the world of sports against the forces that is aiming to harm it. If we want to change, we have to change. And the change starts with us, each one of us sitting here today. Good luck with the conference, and thank you very much.